अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सर्वेभ्यो नमः, सर्वेषां कृते स्वागतं. Welcome to this session. Now we are in the 16th chapter. We are studying the first 3 shlokas of the 16th chapter, and these 3 shlokas focus on the daivi or the divine qualities present in human beings. So the whole of 16th chapter contrasts the divine qualities with the asuric qualities, but the divine qualities are mentioned in the first 3 shlokas, after which Sri Bhagavan says that he has already explained the divine qualities very elaborately, the daivi qualities very elaborately, and therefore the rest of the 16th chapter is on the asuric qualities. Now, in the last 2 sessions, we studied the first shloka, which listed 9 of these daivi qualities, and then the first half of the second shloka, which listed 6 more. So, in all, we covered 15 qualities. In today's session, we will do the second half of the second shloka, which gives us 5 more qualities. So we will then we'll reach 20 qualities with that. So now I will quickly list the 15 qualities that we have already covered. The first was abhaya, means fearlessness in the practice of dharma. The second, sattva samshuddhi, purity of existence. The third, jnana yoga vyavastitihi, the focused pursuit of spiritual knowledge. Dana, charity aligned to dharma. Dhamma, or regulation and restraint of the senses from their objects. Yajna, or worship of Ishvara. Swadhyaya, the self-study of the Shastra, academic study. Tapa, or tapas, austerities which are aligned to dharma, willingly taking discomfort. Arjava means simplicity and uprightness. Ahimsa is non-troublesomeness to others, living in a way that doesn't trouble anyone. Satya, or truthfulness. Akrodha, the absence of anger, consciously restraining anger. Tyaga, letting go. Shanti, peace in the practice of dharma. Shanti also means contentment, happiness. Apaishuna, or non-slander, not slandering, blaspheming others, and so on. So we did 15 qualities in the last 2 sessions, and today we will continue with the second shloka. We will focus on the second half. The second shloka of the 16th chapter. Ahimsa satyam akrodhas tyagas shantirapaishunam daya bhuteshvalo luptvam mardavam hrirachapalam. So here, daya bhuteshu aloluptvam mardavam hrir achapalam. There are 5 divine qualities, daivi qualities listed here. So what are those 5 qualities? The first is called daya bhuteshu, which when you combine becomes bhuta daya, means kindness and compassion towards living beings. Not only towards human beings, but towards all living beings. So we said earlier ahimsa. So ahimsa and bhutadaya have a connection. So you can see that by the practice of ahimsa, we are not only troubling fellow human beings, not only not troubling fellow human beings, but also all living beings. So bhutadaya comes out of being kind, compassionate towards every living being. And thereby, indirectly, we become very conscious of the environment also, because living beings depend on the environment. So if we harm the environment, then naturally they are also harmed. So even non-living beings are included. So some ways in which daya can be practiced. The first very obvious meaning is lending help to the extent possible in any situation of discomfort, difficulty, anxiety, or danger when necessary and when appropriate. Like very obvious example for a student who's doing their PhD would be a fellow student wants a help in some technique or method or understanding a paper or anything connected to their work. Then you're willing to help. You're not hesitant. You don't think that by helping that person, I will lose something, I will be at a disadvantage. So you are very willing to help. You feel, yes, it's a good chance to relieve somebody of their anxiety, let me go and help. That's a very obvious example. But even otherwise, Bhutadaya includes willingly going and saying that, let me help you, trying to understand what could be a difficulty which the other person may not want to ask, but willingly going and help if going to help if it is possible. Sacrificing one's personal comfort, time, material opportunity, and so on to relieve another living being's misery. Feeling genuine concern within oneself upon knowing about others' misery, but not saying it explicitly in the presence of others. That is extremely important because very often we express kindness through our mouth, but it's not really in the heart. Why do we do that? If you deeply reflect on this behavior that many of us might have, it simply comes from the desire to expect others' appreciation. Others will now then think, oh, this is a very kind person, this is a very gentlemanly person, or this is really a lady because she feels so much pain for others. So when a person says it outside, then they attract others' attention, others' appreciation, others' respect, and so on. So this is what largely exists in the world today. A lot of this exists. I'm not saying genuine kindness does not exist. I'm saying that a lot of this also exists along with genuine kindness. People like to say, oh, so sad. Oh, how I wish things could have been better for that person. So a bit of this comes from the craving for appreciation, but not genuinely inside. But here, the daivi guna is about feeling genuinely concerned inside, but not saying it outside. And thereafter, mentally longing for that person's relief. Nobody may know, nobody should know that you are longing for that person's relief, but in your mind, you contemplate, you wish, you probably offer a prayer, you think what could be possible to make that person feel better. At least you think about it, even if you are not able to do. For example, let's say there's a war between Israel and this place, Palestine. So there is bombing going on. The Hamas are getting, people to be bombed in their own country. So now a huge number of people just like you and me, have been displaced from there. Houses are bombed, and you feel, my God, if I was there, what would life be like? So what would life be like for these people? It must be very, very miserable. They can't do anything except run from there, leave everything and run. They will lose their own children. They don't know where they are. They're displaced. Families get broken up. It's complete misery. So sitting here, there may be very little that we can do about it. I mean, you and I, for example, can hardly do anything about it other than just hoping that things will improve for them. They're just like us. Let things improve for them. It doesn't matter if they belong to a different religion. At this point of time, it doesn't matter. Later on, we can talk about all that. But right now, it's a fellow human being, a living being like us. So whether it's a human being or an animal, we wish that this situation will certainly improve and improve very quickly. So this is the longing that we can mentally practice that, okay, let there be relief for somebody who is in misery, whom I know is in misery, who I can see is in misery, but I'm not able to do anything. This is the practice of daya. The highest form of daya. So daya can come in many ways, but the highest form of daya is introducing a fellow human being to Adhyatma Jnana, Adhyatma Tattva, spiritual knowledge, and helping them understand and progress on this path, on the Adhyatma Marga. Because this is not going to give them some freedom from a physical injury or something. Okay, although that seems like a higher form of compassion externally. But this is going to relieve them permanently. It's going to take people from suffering, which they don't even know they experience, to permanent relief, permanent happiness. Okay, so giving somebody Adhyatma Jnana, bringing them to Adhyatma Jnana and helping them, provided we are also on it. If we are not on that path, then we can't bring another person to this path. But if we are practicing it, then helping another person to also come to that path, helping them to realize the importance of that path, making them feel the seriousness and guiding them with whatever knowledge we have is the greatest form of daya. So this is something that each one of us should think of doing. So doing all this, even without being asked and without reciprocation, that is very important. So daya is daya only when there is no reciprocation in it, in the sense that we don't have any expectation of reciprocation, and consciously we reject it when it comes. If somebody comes and reciprocates, for example, you helped someone who were in trouble, and then they later on come to you with a gift, or they come to you with some thank you note or whatever. You say, no, no, I don't want it. Because I didn't, I know, just go away from there. Don't accept it. No reciprocation. And experiencing hesitation, embarrassment if the other person does reciprocate. Accepting that reciprocation only if it serves a better purpose. This is called lajja. We'll come to that lajja very soon. And here, without being asked, I said, doing the above, showing daya, even without being asked, and going and judging whether the person requires, assumes the maturity of without being a nuisance. Okay, sometimes in the eagerness to help others, we may end up being a nuisance to them. That person may not require the help, we may have misjudged. We may feel compassion on somebody who does not really require it at that point of time, and we may go and end up being a nuisance to that person. So we should have the maturity to be able to judge whether we are actually helping the person or just troubling the person. Then it becomes a form of himsa instead of daya. So this is about daya, and daya is an extremely important quality. It goes along with ahimsa and should be practiced with maturity and without reciprocation. If there is expectation of reciprocation, for example, like I told a little earlier, sometimes people do it and they publicize what they did. Either they just say it and don't do anything, or they do it and do it in a way that everybody can see. It's very visible. Or if they cannot see, then they will post a photo or a video or something, a message that I did this. Because of me, today that person is there. Now, that doesn't become true daya because that is done with an exchange mentality. It's done with a mentality of earning a return from it. So it becomes a kind of subtle business. You're getting a transaction done. That is not a daivi quality. Daivi quality is like, for example, Bhagavan. When he does something, he's actually doing everything. Everything is happening by his grace, right? But he doesn't go around telling people, I did this, I did that. Uh, in the Gita, he has to say it because that's the purpose of the Gita. Gita is to make us know something which we are completely oblivious of. So if he says it there, we shouldn't take it as he's trying to promote himself or he's trying to promote himself for some selfish gains. So that is not the point. So here, reciprocation without reciprocation means that we ensure that no amount of selfishness comes into it. And only when it's done selflessly, sorry, when it's done selflessly, it becomes genuine daya. Next, going forward, the next quality is alolupatva. Alolupatva, in the shloka, it comes as alolupatva, aloluptva. So there, that akara is missing. Alolupatva is the correct word. Aloluptva is actually grammatically incorrect in the Bhagavad Gita shloka. So how do we say, how do we accept that Vyasdev wrote like that? Sometimes great scholars like Vyasdev also use a word which may be grammatically slightly incorrect. Some half a syllable is missing there. And this is called Arsha Prayoga, the usage by a rishi. Arsha Prayoga means the usage by a great rishi. And this is not considered grammatical mistake. It's an intentional modification so that the chandas of the shloka, the meter, is properly maintained. So the correct word is alolupatva. That's why I've written it like that here. It means being not greedy. Lolupatva means greediness. What is greediness? The greediness is the endless craving, anxiety, and pursuit for more and more material experience. So when I say material experience, I mean the pleasure we get from our senses and the subtle senses like the mind, ego, and so on. So the pleasure we get through our gross senses, the five jnanendriyas and the karmendriyas, and then the mind, intelligence, ego, the experience-based pleasures we get. So the craving for that and the pursuit of that with anxiety, that is called lolupatva. So some ways that we experience lobha, another word for lolupatva is lobha, include the perpetual craving and anxiety for. The most obvious one is monetary income, monetary wealth. And here, it's not just about, I mean, the desire for having an income that all of us have and we should have, otherwise we can't support ourselves. But when the craving is well beyond what is required for a safe and stable life with adequate savings for the future. Okay, so this requires maturity to say that, okay, this much is the level at which I should keep earning. I should not chase a much higher amount unless that amount comes by itself. If in the normal course of my work I do get more amount, welcome. Not that we're going to reject it, but we don't pursue it with anxiety. We don't crave for it day and night. When we crave for it endlessly, when we crave for more and more, then it becomes loba. When we're just getting something by itself by our regular course of work, then it's not greediness. Okay, similarly, just like monetary income, the craving, endless craving and anxiety for jewelry, cars, clothes, houses, land, and all kinds of other physical and subtle properties that we might want. Similarly, the craving and anxiety for power, wanting to occupy a position, developing or acquiring a particular social status, being known, wanting to be known as greater than somebody else, more powerful, more accomplished, more achieved, more respected than somebody else. So, both in our professional circles and in our social circles. So, the craving for this, the anxiety for this, okay, feeling sad, feeling unhappy when instead of ourselves, somebody else has made that thing, somebody else has given that promotion, or somebody else has given a higher recognition than us, then feeling disappointed, feeling unhappy, feeling jealous. So all this is connected to lolupatwa. Similarly, fame. So power is one thing, fame is a different thing, although they are related to each other. But fame is getting people's appreciation. People should praise us, adoration, followers, more and more followers and likes. Even small things like social media likes. We want more people to view our post, like our post, and make appreciative comments. This also is a form of lolopatwa, a subtle form of lolopatwa. Now, once again, let me say that these items by themselves actually are not lobha. To some extent, it's fine. For example, if you post something on social media which is informative, let's say you want to post something not for just attracting attention to yourself, but you want to share something useful to someone, okay, then very much that cannot be called lobha. And you would want people to view it because, after all, you're sharing it for their benefit. But when you become anxious, when the lack of, let's say, more of that thing gives you anxiety and you are craving for it, you become unhappy. So that craving is what is called lobha. And this leads to what is called as narakatva, hellish misery. So if these are engaged in dharma, it leads to atyanta sukha, perpetual happiness. So here I should recollect a shloka which comes a little later in the same chapter, 16th chapter, where Sri Bhagavan is discussing the asuric qualities. So there he says, Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanam atmanaha kamakrodhastatha lobaha tasmat etat trayam tyajet. He says there are three doors to naraka. Trividham narakasya idam dwaram nashanam atmanaha. They destroy the self. They destroy the person. Three doors to hell. Three doors to naraka. What are they? Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. So these three come together. There is Kama, and then there is Lobha for Kama, means more and more of that thing. Kama by itself means only desire. But when the desire becomes endless, it becomes like a bottomless pit. You just keep wanting more. The more you get, even though you get more, you're not satisfied. You want even more. You want even more. It satisfies you only for a short while. And then you immediately start comparing with somebody who has more. And in this world, for anyone, there's always someone who has more, right? Very few people may think that I have everything that I can have. Uh, but for anybody else, let's say you may say that, okay, the richest person in the world, Elon Musk. Now, whom will he compare with? Well, he can compare with a king. He can say that I only have this much land if he wants to. I'm not saying Elon Musk is greedy. I don't know what he is. I'm just saying that somebody even who has that much wealth can compare with another person and say that, or can compare with what they don't have. There's so many things which they don't have. Like the richest man in the world doesn't own the entire world. He owns only some properties and so on. So he can still feel that I need to have more. And so there is no end to this. So the Shastra describes that even the devas in Swarga, who have much more than human beings have, they're more powerful, they're more good looking, they have much more wealth, and their senses are much more capable of pleasure than our senses. How much our pleasure we can experience in this material in this bhuloka. Swarga loka, you can experience much more pleasure. And that is why people want to go there. At least in our Shastra, people want to go there. So even there is no satisfaction because people want even more. There is lobha. The devas who live there also have lobha. And that is why we hear once in a while there is some war between them and the asuras. They go and try to destroy some rishis tapasya because of that jealousy, that this rishi may become more powerful than me, etc. There is constant lobha and troublesomeness. Now, kama, krodha, lobha by themselves are not harmful if they are engaged in dharma. So again, when Sri Bhagavan is talking about them as asuric qualities, he means that when they are engaged in adharma. But suppose one is very eager, extremely eager, or one craves very, strongly for progress in dharma. One wants to experience that freedom from anxiety. One wants to practice dharma even better. One feels unhappy when one did not do one's vrata properly. You try to do a vrata like Ekadashi. Yesterday was Ekadashi. After you finish the Ekadashi, you reflect on it and said, "Oh, I should not have done that day or done that thing on Ekadashi day." For example, I had 3 glasses of water. I could have done it with just 2 glasses of water. I could have done it even better, maybe with no water until 6 p.m. in the evening. So this way, thinking, craving for practicing dharma even better, feeling unhappy when you did not practice it so well as you could have. That is lobha in a different sense, but that lobha is not condemned. It is not asuric. It is actually sattvic. And it is actually, it leads to atyanta sukha. It leads to happiness. It leads to purification. It leads to atma shuddhi, chitta shuddhi, and it leads to happiness. So we should be able to discern between what is dharma, what is adharma. And it's not about justifying to others. It's not about telling others, okay, this is why it's not adharma, this is dharma. No, justification to others has no meaning here. It's about justifying to oneself, reflecting within oneself and justifying to oneself, not to others. The third quality is mardava. It comes from the word mridu. Mridu means soft, gentle, tender. So mardava is the quality of one who is mridu. Also, you can say mridutva. Mridutva and mardava mean the same thing. So Mridu again is closely related to ahimsa. Ahimsa and Mardava are just like we talked about Bhuta Daya. Ahimsa and Mardava are closely connected. Mardava implies gentleness in mind, speech, and bodily action. Mind, thoughts that are gentle on one's mental state. Conducting or keeping one's mind. See, mind is a very great asset that we have. It is through our mind that all our thoughts are produced, and through our mind, our thinking happens, our logical reasoning happens with the help of intelligence, but in the mind. And decisions are taken in the mind, right? We take help of our intelligence, we make decisions, but everything happens in the mind. So if the mind is not in a proper state, if the mind is disturbed, if the mind is fluctuating, if the mind is filled with disturbing thoughts, violent thoughts, thoughts of anxiety, thoughts of jealousy, thoughts of anger, then obviously we will not be doing our job well, we will not live a happy life, we will not do anything well, and that will react back on us and make us even further unhappy. It becomes a reinforcing cycle, a vicious cycle. So to get out of that, it's very important to maintain our mind in a very gentle state, always calm, always soft. So first is to ourself, keeping ourself under calmness, softness, being soft on ourselves, and then not disturbing others as well. So first inside and then outside. Speech is words that are softly spoken, not rude, harsh in tone, but polite, not hurting, free from sarcasm, taunt, ridicule of others, and so on, which can disturb others. Sometimes people may not realize this, but we see people sometimes who just go on talking. They may be very rude, harsh. They may or may not realize, but it's such a nuisance, right? By looking at them, we can learn that we should not be like that. We can avoid being that way. Be quiet, practice quietness as much as possible, speak only when required to speak. And this is therefore Mardava. And bodily actions, actions that are pleasing, not disturbing to witness for anybody else. Not only that, in Ahimsa we said actions which may actually be violent on others. But here, just by watching that action, somebody may feel disturbed, like driving rashly, being very noisy at work, banging something, banging objects, banging the door, okay, speaking loudly on the phone, or when somebody else is speaking on the phone, then playing loud music near them, that they will be disturbed. Okay, sometimes deliberately people do this. So this kind of behavior is opposite of Mardava. Being soft and gentle means being very sensitive to others' feelings as much as we can, and ensuring that nobody gets disturbed in any manner. People are well treated. This is Mardava. Of course, very important to mention that being punitive or harsh and so on, being very strict when it is appropriate, does not go against Mardava. Suppose there is an offender, a person who goes on making offenses, a person who is disturbing others, a criminal, or a child. Sometimes you have to deal with a child in a punitive manner, right? Like we said earlier, that sometimes you have to speak the untruth to a child because the child is going out of control and you have to bring it under control. And for its own good, sometimes you may have to lie to a child to bring it under control. You must avoid it as much as you can, but if it's unavoidable, then in such situations, asatya is not adharma. Okay, the fourth quality for today and the 19th quality in our list of 26 qualities is hri. Hri refers to also what is known as lajja or shame, embarrassment. And shame and embarrassment in anything that is aligned to adharma, anything that goes against dharma, even if it happens without one's knowing or is outside of one's control. It includes the sense of hesitation and embarrassment in accepting praise and adoration from others. Okay, if somebody has lajja, then they don't have to be told that, don't seek adoration because they won't. Naturally, the presence of lajja in them as an innate quality will prevent them from any situation where they try to show themselves out. Okay. Now, this is one place where the Indian culture, the Bharatiya Samskriti, very starkly differs from the Western culture. In the Western culture, uh, showing yourself out explicitly is actively promoted. That's considered as a virtue. Showing, promoting yourself, talking about yourself, telling that you are this, you are that, I have done this, I have done that. It's not considered as anything, untoward. A person who doesn't do this, others may suspect that there is some complex in them. There is some psychological complex, inferiority complex, some extra excessive introversion. So because they are not talking about themselves, they are not unwilling to come out and talk. So introversion is looked down upon in the Western culture, right? Now, introversion can come from a psychological complex also. There could be a mental disorder, but it need not come from that. Introversion can be a very divine quality. Actually, introversion is a divine quality also, and it comes from this lajja. So lajja is considered very divine because it means by if somebody has lajja, then you can imagine that they will also not be very disturbing to others because they won't talk about themselves. They'll keep quiet. So it shapes one's behavior. One avoids attention seeking. One prefers quietness. One prefers solitude. One prefers staying away from unnecessary social mixing. So one is not very social. One is not very socially very active, right? And so therefore, this may be mistaken from what the Western psychology calls as withdrawal. A withdrawal is a term that is used with negative connotation often in Western psychology. Withdrawal is said to result from fear, lack of confidence, emotional insecurity, sense of inferiority, and so on. Right? So people who have lack of confidence or emotional insecurity, etc., they may engage in withdrawal. Not necessarily, but they might. Some people will go into a shell. We say going into a shell. They withdrew into a shell and they remain quiet. Right? Now, the lajja spoken here is certainly not that. Is certainly not there at all. It contrasts starkly with what they call withdrawal from lack of confidence, insecurity, inferiority, and so on. Because this lajja here, Hri, is inspired by an inner sense of completeness, contentment, full contentment inside, inner richness. There's so much richness and happiness inside that the person does not need external validation, does not need, and feels embarrassed when that comes. It looks like lowering that contentment. When somebody comes and talks about or tells one, oh, you are so great, it's like, okay, it looks cheap because I'm already feeling so good about myself. I don't need somebody to come and tell me, nor do I want to talk about it. I don't want to advertise it. So this is lajja, this is free, and this is not easy for Westerners to understand. They are not able to understand. They just think it's a complex that maybe some people have. So we as Indians, I'm sure, will relate with this because we have seen since our childhood how our fellow human beings behave, and we also have a bit of this in us. Each one of us has. So this is lajja, and this is actually a quality. And to the extent we don't have it, we must try to now overcome that and try to develop this quality within us. So this is different from going into a shell because of lack of confidence, etc. In fact, going into a shell uh, for because of inner contentment is actually praised in the Bhagavad Gita. There's a shloka where Sri Bhagavan in the second chapter talks about the tortoise withdrawing its limbs within its shell, just like a tortoise withdraws its limbs within its shell. One should withdraw. Yadha samharate chayam kurmuha angani iva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhya tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a person is a sthita prajna, one who is able to withdraw his senses from their objects. So this is not the Western withdrawal. This is actually uh, maturity. This is because of inner contentment. And finally, for today, the fifth quality is achapala. Achapala is referring to the opposite of chapalata or chapalya. So chapala means a person who is whimsical or who is indisciplined, who has no clear goals in his life, who does things randomly, who randomly changes from one thing to another thing, not knowing what to do next. This is particularly true in the context of adharma, dharma versus adharma. A person who is properly fixed in the path of dharma will not have chapalata in them. Will for them each day, every moment of their day will be well defined. They know that this is what they have to do. They engage themselves in this manner, very conscious of their time, right? Engaging in the time in only in activities which make sense as per dharma, which don't go against dharma. So, abstention from useless activities, consciously ensuring that one's time and effort are devoted only to meaningful activities that one is expected to do. Tight engagement, absence of looseness in the mind, speech, and the body. So, this, like I again just now said, it's in the context of doing activities which favor dharma, which take you more towards dharma and not towards adharma. Again, when I talk about absence of looseness in mind and so on, you see the Western literature also talks about this, having a tight focus, being, focusing on a few things and not doing a lot of things so that you become more productive, the productivity goes up. Unproductivity comes because the mind is loose. So concepts like mindfulness have been adopted from Buddhist, literature. Now, again, there's a difference between that tightness which they're talking about and the tightness we are talking about. We are talking about tightness in the context of dharma, not in the pursuit of material wealth. They are talking about that tightness, focus, etc., in the pursuit of more material expansion. So they will talk about productivity, profitability will go up, your productivity at work will go up, you'll be able to do more, achieve more sales, this and that. We are not talking about that here. We are talking about being able to control our mind and senses better. Uh, Unnecessarily not engaging the mind in things which will distract it and take it away from its focus on Ishvara, on the real self, on what is good for dharma. Right? So this is what is meant by achapalata here, not material pursuit. Even asuras are many asuras are actually focused. Ravana, for example, was a highly focused personality, but very adharmic, right? So therefore, it doesn't mean that focus. It means dharmic focus, achapalata. So these are the 5 qualities of today. Let me summarize them. The first is the 16th quality, bhuta daya, kindness and compassion towards living beings. Then alolupatva, being not greedy. Third, mardava, the quality of one who is mridu, being gentle, soft, and tender. Pri is shame, embarrassment in anything aligned to adharma. And achapala is absence of whimsicality, being not whimsical. If you see the Mahabharata, in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas represent the daivi gunas, and the Kauravas, headed by particularly Duryodhana, Dushasana, and so on, represent the asuric qualities. in whom in these Kauravas these qualities are absent. So we will be dealing with the Asuri qualities soon. Sri Bhagavan spends the rest of the 16th chapter after the third shloka on all the Asuri qualities. So we will deal with them in great detail. You will see those qualities there. But the Mahabharata is a contrast. Essentially, the whole of Mahabharata, although it's described as a book of itihas, but its purpose is not really itihas alone. Its purpose is to actually show us the difference between dharma and adharma through the Pandavas and Kauravas. By contrasting the Pandavas and Kauravas, they are the central characters in the Mahabharata. And the supporting characters are people like Bhishma, Vyasa, Dhritarashtra, etc. Right? So through these central characters, the contrast between dharma and adharma is very nicely brought out. So what we are dealing with now, the 26 daivi qualities are representative of dharma and sattva guna. And the asuric qualities, they represent rajoguna and tamoguna, excessive rajoguna and tamoguna. So for today, I will stop with this and I'll be happy to hear your questions, comments, etc. I'll also open the video panel and unmute. Yes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me. So we will soon come to the end of this 26 qualities, and I think we should make a list of these along with the reflections we did in the class. Maybe we can develop scale items with which we can assess ourselves. Of course, it can be used in research as well. At least we should first use it on ourselves to know where we are in each of these things. We can develop scales for ourselves. How much do we practice this in our life right now? And reflect on how practicing it can actually bring happiness to us. As it brings happiness to us, it will also bring happiness to others around us. You see, it's a process in which happiness cannot be created only for one person, right? You can cook a meal for only one person, but happiness is something that you cannot create for one person alone. Genuine happiness comes only when we also make others happy around us, when we live in a manner that others around us, including non-human beings. Not when I say others, I don't mean only human beings. I mean even the animals, the birds, the insects, whatever interacts with us, live in a manner that doesn't disturb them. They also feel happy with our existence. Then happiness comes to us, genuine happiness comes to us. So the process of happiness creation for oneself involves first creating happiness for others. That is the nature of happiness. Looking forward to your questions.
Sir, I have two questions.
Yeah, yes, Puneet.
Sir, I want to ask that adopting these Devi qualities, will it make us to move on the path of dharma? That
Yeah.
is okay. And the dharmic, we say the societal dharma, the how we interact with others in a society or the rules and regulations of the society, those dharmic rules are different from this or one or same thing?
Well, when you say rules of society, you mean the country's laws? Is that what you
Not,
mean?
not the country's lot. That is obviously right now in this yuga is very different. But
Hmm.
at the time of even Mahabharata or the yuga of Dwapar Yuga, adopting
Yeah.
this quality will make everyone to move in on a dharmic path. Is it true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it begins at the individual level, but it has, if everybody practices it, then it becomes group level. The whole group, the whole ecosystem is living in dharma. There is dharma present in the ecosystem. So when adharma comes in, immediately it's rejected. That's the meaning of group level dharma, right? So you can have societal level dharma, which is what our ancient society was structured around. Strict, very strict dharma. So these qualities are the, you can say, the nuts and bolts of dharma. If these qualities are not present, then any rituals that are done. See, today, what is dharma understood as? Today, dharma is understood as just ritualistic activities, going to a Kumbh Mela, taking a bath. These kind of activities, external activities, rituals, are considered as indicators of dharma. Maybe they are, but fundamentally, these are the nuts and bolts. If these are absent, even if the rituals are done, then there is no dharma. It's only adharma. It's like throwing stones at God, throwing stones at Ishvara. If somebody does externally, wears a big mala, wears a kurta with Om written all over it. कुर्ता डाल दिया उसमें राम 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 इज रिटन देयर, बड़ा नाम डाला, तिलक डाला और ये सब किया, सब कुछ किया, बाहर से बहुत साधु लगता है, अंदर में सब गंदगी है. So none of these qualities are present, then it's just adharma. That person is just doing adharma, right? Whatever sadhuta is outside, it's not sadhuta at all. So these are the qualities which define dharma. So if we practice these qualities externally, also we may not look like dharmic people. Externally, we may wear a suit and a tie because our job requires it. If our job requires wearing a suit and a tie in this Kali Yuga, then we may go to a job like that. So when somebody looks at us, they'll say, "Arey, yaar, ye westernized ho gaya hai." But in the person's heart, if this is there, and he is completely conscious of Ishwar in his mind, Ishwara Buddhi is strong in him, and keeping that as inspiration, he develops these qualities, then he's a real sadhu. That person is dharmic. He is situated properly in dharma. Dharma begins from here. It's completely internal.
And my second question, sir, in continuation to this, we say the Shri Bhagwan uh, take incarnation, the Jadajai Dharmasya, to establish dharma.
Hmm.
Then we are talking about this dharmic qualities.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So he establishes dharma by talking about these qualities and by his own example, the way he conducts his life in Gokula. So we were talking about the Bhagavatam stories, the way he moves around between people in his life, everything he does has all these qualities. Bhuta Daya, Alolopatva, Mardava. He's very soft natured. He's very kind. When he talks to people, he's very soft, he's very respectful. He does not think or he does not show that, I am Ishwar, everybody should bow down to me. He conducts himself in a way that everybody wants to interact with him. He's so attractive. His attraction comes from there, right? And he's very full of lajja in him. He's achapala. So all these qualities we are discussing are first present in him and they come from him to us. So to bring those qualities to us, he appears here and he infuses others, inspires others to be like that. He's the role model. He's called Adarsha Purusha. Adarsha Purusha means the role model. So when he says Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shridamyam dharma samstapanarthaya. In the next sloka he says paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya. So that people develop these qualities in them and know the purpose of life is to discover themselves and discover him. So that is the meaning of dharma samstapanarthaya.
And the people on the taking back to the Mahabharata, there were
Hmm.
people like Bhishma and Guru Dronacharya who were also the dharmic people, but they stood on the side of a Kaurava. So they are
Yes.
adharmic.
Yes, they took the side of adharma, although they were very knowledgeable in dharma and largely they are dharmic. They have done a lot of dharma, a lot of punya, but because of circumstances, they fell into the hands of adharma. So Drona also says that because he got attracted to that, there were qualities in him which made him do things which are adharmic. And so even though he was largely dharmic, there was some percentage of adharmatva in him, which made him do adharmic qualities, and therefore he got entangled there. Whereas the Pandavas like Yudhishthira and so on, they did not have, they were 100% dharmic. So they were willing to sacrifice everything for dharma, including their own lives. You see, all the five of them, they stood apart, and Draupadi, their wife, and their mother Kunti as well. All the six of them, seven of them.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Shall we have more questions today? Anyone else?
Pranam sir, Akshat here.
Yes, Pranam Akshat.
Sir, just one question regarding this, the concept of Madhav,
Yeah.
essentially. So, how do we make a distinction between generally, being soft or tender as this quality enshrines, and at the same time, there will be situations, let's say, especially in a work context or even otherwise, where you need to give proper feedback to a person, a colleague, or whoever,
Yeah.
and which
So
may be a little critical or harsh, but it is, yes, sir.
absolutely. So in the matter of duty, let's say again, all these qualities, none of them are superficial qualities. It's not about pretending to be soft when you know that you cannot be soft here. So when you know that you have to behave in a particular manner, somebody has to be pulled up, somebody has to be told that they are being stupid, somebody has to be told that they can improve by doing this, then you have to say that. It doesn't go against Mardhavatva. Mardhavatva is a deep default inner quality. It's the inner default quality. And that is how you are generally. But in a situation where you have to be, harsh to somebody, impolite, what may look like impoliteness, you have to scold someone, then you have to be that. Otherwise, it's immaturity, which is not favorable to dharma. It may not become adharma, but it's immaturity, which will not help you practice dharma further. I hope it answers your question, or you want more
Yes, sir.
clarification.
No, no, sir, that answers it. And sir,
Hmm.
also on the concept of achapal, and when we talk about being focused, essentially, or
Yeah.
doing things with focus, and here, as you said, it's the focus is more on dharmic activities, but uh, still, I mean, is there, you know do we, whether in the Bhagavad Gita or otherwise, is there some sort of commentary or guidance in terms of also what sort of goals or focus areas an individual should endeavor to have, which can be kind of focused on? Or I mean, how does that kind of get considered, sir, if at all?
When you say focus areas, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that?
Sir,
Focus
so
areas?
I'm mainly talking in terms of one's profession, or one's
Hmm.
vocation, in the sense that, so somebody may be a, you know somebody may be a businessman, a teacher, maybe an investment professional, a consultant, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh, which So what I'm trying to say is that, in a very strict sense, these are not activities which may have been prevalent in the ancient times, when, let
Yes.
us say, the scope of dharmic activities and the different castes in society were defined. Basically, we may very loosely kind of map them onto modern day professions, but I
Yes.
don't think we can have a very precise kind of mapping. So I'm
Hmm.
just trying to understand, and to borrow concept from other philosophies, we might have come across this term called ikigai, for example, from Japan,
Hmm. Yes.
wherein we talk about this achieving this balance, essentially. So just curious
Hmm.
to understand if it's something one can kind of relate to within the Indian scriptures as well.
Yeah. The Indian knowledge system actually talks about different types of occupation. Like you said, there is a loose mapping that you can do. But if you see fundamentally, it's exactly the same. Like we have Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra in the Indian knowledge system, which here comes in the form of people who engage in teaching and academic activities, people who do business, people who do administration, governance, and the people who do services to other all the other community members. So you have these classes implicitly existing in any society, and it doesn't matter, the designation doesn't matter, but the point that is being made in the Gita is that the goal of life should be first defined as perfection of dharma, discovering our true self, our swabhav, swarup, sorry, going from our swabhav to our swarup. Swabhav means what we are currently with all our mind, our past karma, our samskaras, overcoming them and discovering our real Swarupa as the Atma, and then connecting with Ishvara. And that is the perfection of Dharma, developing that relationship. Now, regardless of what occupation we do, that should be at the back of our mind as the goal of life. That is the goal of life. Okay, then if that is the goal of life, the question comes, why are we doing so and so occupation? We're doing a particular occupation. Okay, now why am I doing this particular occupation? Now, the answer that might come to many people is that I have to maintain my body, because if I don't maintain my body, then I can't do dharma. Right now, in my given condition, I can't depend on anything other than my body. Fundamentally, my body is my most fundamental asset. And it's through that which I do, through that I do anything else. So therefore, even to practice dharma, I need to maintain my body, my mind, and my surroundings in a stable way. So that answers the question of why you're doing a particular occupation. Now, among different occupations, which occupation should I do? That clue is given in the Gita itself. It says, according to our swabhav. You see, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they had specific activities like we just mentioned. Now, why was that mapping done? That mapping from activities was done from the swabhav of the person. That is the innate inner qualities which have developed from the past lives, from past samskara, certain types of tendencies, orientations are innately present in someone. Someone is naturally inclined towards academic study. Someone is more naturally inclined towards governance, administration. They are very good administrators. Nobody has to train them. It naturally comes to them. Some people, nobody has to train them to do business. Business thinking naturally comes to them. You see that, right? You see so many examples here. So that is called swabhav. So which means, how do we discover that ourselves? We can discover it quite easily by looking at where is my most natural inclination towards, what kind of activities is my inclination towards. So you will see, like you did your BM in XLRI, among your batchmates, some people you would have seen are very attracted towards marketing, where somebody else attracted towards finance, somebody else attracted towards something else. That's an attraction which comes because they feel very comfortable with that topic, with that subject, and the kind of activities involved in that profession. So what that means is that their samskar is oriented like that. And if you take up something that is in accordance with your swabhav, then you become most peaceful. Your mind remains most peaceful in that kind of occupation. Otherwise, if you're put in a wrong occupation, which is mismatching with your swabhav, then there will be struggle. A person who is not inclined towards academics, you put him to do an academic job, will struggle all his life because he will not be able to understand things clearly, and therefore he will not be able to teach students clearly. Students will give him a bad feedback. He will have problems with them. So whole life of academics will be suffering. That person is not made for academics. Today we have many people like that. So people who are in a profession which they are not made for this swabhav, but they came to it because of some confusion in life. They didn't know where to go. They knocked here and there, and they just ended up here. So you find that in all occupations, right? Mismatch between their actual nature and that occupation. And these are the people who end up doing politics and this and that because they are not interested in the primary work itself. When you're not interested in the primary work, it's not a natural liking for you, then you end up doing all kinds of other things. So that's the importance of swabhav and matching swabhav with our karma or guna with karma. And that's why Sri Bhagavan says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. Guna and karma, they are mapped together. And so up till here, I have tried to address your question. Have I addressed it at least to some extent, Akshat?
Absolutely, sir. Very helpful, sir. That's
Hmm.
very helpful.
So we should choose that occupation and then just do that work as nicely as we can, keeping these qualities in mind. We are right on those qualities now, and keeping all these qualities in mind, not being greedy, being kind to others, being compassionate, accommodating, sacrificing, letting things go when they have to go, not latching on to something too tightly. These kind of qualities, if we cultivate as we do that occupation which is naturally suited to us, we'll be happy forever. We'll have a very happy life and retire happily and become even more involved in dharma after retirement. Right? That's the kind of life that we are expected to have according to the Bhagavad-Gita, in my understanding. Jayashree, you have raised your hand. Would you like to say something?
Yes, regarding this achapalatva, I just thought I'll express something that I have understood. In the sense, this achapala is very important uh, for all the other qualities. That is, the person who is not whimsical, that is, who is not loose-minded, who is firm in his uh, uh, conduct and behavior, will not do anything just like that. Whatever he does will be according to dharma, will be according to tradition that his elders have followed, will be according to what his guru has told. It will not be his own uh, thought or his own idea which he'll follow. So achapala is very basic to all these daivi qualities. If he has to show achapalatva in bhutadaya, in mardava, in hri, everywhere. So that's how I understood.
I think it's exactly aligned to what I was saying. That achapalatva is non-whimsicality in the practice of dharma, which involves all the other qualities.
Yes, so it is immaterial with time. Like even this achapalatma was there during Mahabharata time, and we need it even today. So it is timeless. So Akshat, are you able to kind of understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, ma'am. I think what I can understand is also that essentially it's in that sense a base quality for the other qualities to be observed, essentially, or to
Yes.
enable the person to kind of observe that.
Yes, so I can't say today I will follow this Mardhavatva and tomorrow I'll be whatever I want to be. So that is not possible. I mean, that you'll not find in the person who has this daivi quality called achapalatva.
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Yeah.
So we need it even today. So it's all these qualities we need even today, whether it was written during Mahabharata time or not. It is relevant even today.
Yeah.
And one more
Absolutely.
point I wanted to, one more point I wanted to make to Puneet's question regarding the incarnation of Bhagavan. So the incarnations of Bhagavan have multifold lessons for us, in the sense right from the time he appears on the earth to the time he departs. Every moment, every activity that he does is an act of dharma. So when Rama shoots an arrow, or Krishna decides not to shoot an arrow, there is dharma involved. It is only for us to understand why he did so.
You could have said Krishna plays the flute. Just
yes,
like Rama
I mean,
is known for
I just
shooting
wanted to show
his
the
Baan, Rama
contrast
Baan.
here. Yes.
Yeah. Krishna is known for his flute. Yes.
Yes. So
Different
he
ways.
comes for multifold reasons, and so the establishing dharma is the primary reason. So we have one full lifetime to understand Rama and Krishna.
Thank you, ma'am.
To understand these qualities, it's very useful to read Mahabharata, particularly Mahabharata. Ramayana also, of course. We see so many instances where these qualities emerge in the characters. And I strongly recommend reading the original version, not the abridged versions which are available in English and other languages. I mean, of course, if it's an Indian language, it's much better than English. But if you are able to read the original version in an Indian language, the original version written by Vyasdev ji and Valmiki ji, in a Indian translation like in Hindi or your mother tongue, any Indian translation, you'll be able to appreciate these qualities very well, because you see how they are very nicely brought out. In fact, they are written for that purpose only. Good. Anyone, any further questions? We can close otherwise. We had some very good questions today. Okay, if there are no further questions, we will close. And when I chant the Antimangalam, please chant the Hare Krishna mantra along with me. Why is it not moving forward? Just give me a moment. Yeah. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavadaha. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you about Dharma. And we will meet again next Sunday. Thank you.